look at the say chapter 3, where we developed the conceptual framework. We looked at the types of variables, let's say the independent, dependent, and moderating as well as mediating variables. And also we did some exercises to understand how they can be included in a conceptual framework. Then we looked at operationalization, where you develop indicators to build the questionnaire. So this operationalization is very important in any dissertation. මේ ඊයේත් ළමෙක් මට ඒවල තියෙනවා මොකක් හරි හොර වැඩක් කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙච්ච කෙනෙක් මං හිතන්නේ මේ එයා data භාගයක් analyze කරලා මට එවනවා මට questionnaire එක පෙන්නන්නෙත් නැතුව operationalization එක පෙන්නන්නෙත් නැතුව එයා data collect කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ ඒවා තියෙන්න බෑ මොකද මේකේ යම්කිසි structure එකක් තියෙන්නේ ඒක තියෙන්න ඕනේ නිසා. ඉතින් this operationalization is very important. So you have to know how to operationalize each and every variable that you have in your conceptual framework. So if you look at the sequence of topics within the chapter 3, we have the conceptual framework, then you have the hypothesis. Of course, for qualitative research, we don't have hypothesis. Then followed by the operationalization. So that is how the topics are arranged. So what do you think should come next? I want your viewpoint. In your viewpoint, what could come next?
The questionnaire.
Okay, I have another question then from you. Why do you decide it should be a questionnaire? On what grounds do you decide that it should be a questionnaire? Can it be, say, can your data collection be through interviews? So, if on what basis do you decide that it should be a questionnaire?
We have to divide them as qualitative and quantitative measures.
So good, very good. So the next part is where you have to explain whether your research is an inductive research or a deductive research. Understand? So you have already some kind of idea where say some research can be inductive, some research can be deductive, right? So here to decide whether inductive or deductive, again you have various steps, right? So what we are going to look at is how do you decide whether your research should be quantitative or qualitative, and if it is decided to be quantitative only, you need a questionnaire, otherwise you will conduct interviews, of course, usually with semi-structured questionnaires. So you have to see how you decide, say, your path here onwards, okay, right? So I will be today teaching you two different frameworks that we use to say identify how to decide whether your research should be quantitative or qualitative. So in your research methods textbook, you use the Uma Sekaran's textbook, you will find there is a chapter called research design. Okay, so there he explains how you should say figure out whether to do a quantitative or qualitative research. I am also looking at another author, right, who has developed another framework called Research Onion. Okay, it has this title Onion because he explains it in a nice way where you have to it's kind of peeling off the layers of the onion, where you start from the outer layer and then reach the innermost layer. So this also happens like that in a very sequential manner. So this lesson, I would like you to say, listen very carefully, because at the end, I want all of you to join with me and give your viewpoints whether Saunders is better or Sekaran is better. Sekaran is the author of your textbook. So I want your viewpoints, say, to find who is the better author in explaining how to figure out whether to do a quantitative or qualitative research, or explaining the research design. So now you understand. Your next topic is research design, which is an extremely important part of the research, extremely important, because you should know why you decide to collect data using a questionnaire, or why you decide to do a quantitative research, and likewise. So now, if you look at the research onion, I will explain both, of course, as I said at the beginning. So if you say look at the research onion framework, I will show you what it is. This is how it looks like. Right? You can see in the very outermost layer, we have philosophies. Then comes approaches, and then strategies, and then you have choices, then finally the time horizons, and then you find data collection and analysis. So under this data collection and analysis, you find that you have to talk about whether you're collecting data using a questionnaire, what kind of a questionnaire, is it structured, or are you having a combination of structured and semi-structured questions? If it is structured, what kind of scale are you going to use? For example, 1 to 5 scale, where 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree, right? And what is your population? How much is your sample size? On what grounds did you decide upon a particular sampling technique? So likewise, you have to explain that. Now you understand, if you don't explain all this part and jump on to this to say I'm going to collect data using a questionnaire, you miss out a very important part of your research. Okay, so I therefore advise the students, you have a choice either to explain it using the onion or the research design, one of the two, but you can choose and explain it very carefully and completely using one of these frameworks. Some students, of course, explain using both. Okay, so I'm going to now start off with the philosophies. Okay. Now, what is a philosophy? At the beginning, let's see. You can see here, philosophy is an overarching term relating to the development of knowledge and the nature of knowledge. So, very clearly we can understand it relates to something very broad. Okay, right? Basically, my broader idea as to how I should set about with my research. It's like that. Okay. Then you can find how do you decide upon what kind of a philosophy you have. Okay. So these are the basis upon which you may have your own philosophy towards conducting your research. So let's look at them one by one. So once again, I would like to make a comment. You won't find this ontology, epistemology, axiology in the onion diagram. If you carefully see, there is no word ontology, epistemology. Right? So if you look at where they are, I would say they are kind of say outside the research, right? So if I explain it like this, let's say I'm trying to open up. Can you see a different onion like blue and white stripes?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Now, the ontology, epistemology, you can see outside the onion. Can you? Right here, you can see this is epistemology, ontology, axiology. So you should understand that they are not philosophies, because what you see inside are actually philosophies. These are say other things that helps you to figure out what your philosophy is. Okay, because sometimes students have this understanding that you know, the philosophies are ontology, epistemology, which is the wrong understanding. So to explain what is ontology, epistemology, now you must be seeing here, I'm back to the original presentation. Do you see that?
Yes, madam.
Do you see a presentation slide with ontology, epistemology, axiology?
Yes, madam.
Okay. What do you mean by ontology? You can see assumptions about the nature of reality. That means how we understand the world. So if I put it across it through an example, now let's say I ask you this question. I have 3 different organizations and I call them ABC, okay? And these 3 companies, ABC, have a common problem called, say, with their employee motivation. Okay, so they all have a common problem with respect to employee motivation. So now, can you explain how you're going to address this problem? What theories do you use to address this problem? Can you tell me? What theories you're going to use to address this problem? Can you? Okay.
One-on-one interviews?
Yeah.
One-on-one interviews?
No, what I'm asking you is what theories would you use to explain this situation? I said they are having a problem with employee motivation. I have 3 companies called A, B, C. These are the companies. They have the same common problem of employee motivation. Okay. What theories would you use to explain this situation? That's what I'm asking.
Maslow's theories.
Excellent. Very good. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have Herzberg's 2-factor theory. Then you have Bloom's expectancy theory. So you have various theories, correct? Right? Now, when you use these theories to explain this situation, you come up with various motivators. So for example, you may say that they have to be given good rewards, right? And they should have career advancement opportunities. They should have good working conditions. And then if these are there, they will be motivated. Now, if you think like this, again, think for a moment and see if you come up with these common factors to explain the problems faced by 3 different companies. Of course, the problem is motivation. At the back of your mind, you tend to assume that whatever the company, the factors that affect motivation are the same set of factors that are being explained by theories. Understand now? Okay. So
Yeah.
you have not paid any attention to the differences in companies or the different contexts in companies which could have say required different sets of motivators for each and every company. Whereas you thought whatever the company is, if they have a problem with motivation, then the factors are these. So we here believe that the factors that affect motivation are common to any company, irrespective of whether the company is in a banking industry or education or whatever it is. Right? We assume that they are the same and they are the ones that are applicable, say, as factors that affect the motivation. Now think about the way that we have, say, addressed the problem. In the back of the mind, we tend to assume that there is some universally accepted set of factors that affect motivation, which are described either through Maslow's or Herzberg's or whatever. So they are the ones that are applicable to any organization. So that is how the motivation can be explained. Okay. So if you think like that, you tend to assume that the reality is external to the context, right? In other words, what affects motivation does not depend upon the internal circumstances within each company. Company එක A වුණත් එකයි B වුණත් එකයි C වුණත් එකයි motivation වලට බලපාන factors ටික කාටත් එකයි. එතකොට අපි මොකක්ද හිතන්නේ මේ ලෝකයේ reality එක විස්තර කරන universal factors ටිකක් තියෙනවා. ඒක Aටත් Bටත් Cටත් සහ වෙනත් අයටත් පොදුයි. අන්න අපි හිතමු විදිය. හරිද? ඒ අපි හිතන එක විදිහක්. Right? Or else you can argue with me saying that, okay, how can you think like that? A could be in a different industry, B could be in a different industry, or maybe that within A, B, C, the factors that affect as motivators could differ based on the managerial levels inside the company. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි senior management එකේ ඉන්න අයින්ට ඕන කරන්නේ මේ self actualization needs ඊට පල්ලෙහා ඉන්න අයින්ට ඕන කරන්නේ say basic and esteem needs එහෙම හිතනකොට අන්න එතකොට අපි එහෙම හැමෝටම එකම එකක් අපි ගන්න බෑ කියලා හිතන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? දැන් එතකොට අපි ඒ වගේම අපි හිතනවා ඒ එක එක්කෙනාගේ දැන් මේ A කියන කම්පැනි එකේ rewards හොඳ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක නිසා ඒක motivator එකක් නෙමෙයි සමහර වෙලාවට ඒ කම්පැනි එකට ඒක මේ hygiene factor එකක්. ඒ වුණාට B කියන කම්පැනි එකට ඒක motivator එකක්. මොකද ඒකේ ඉන්න මිනිස්සුගේ ඒ වැඩි හරියක්ට මේ say for example lower managerial level workers, so therefore that is their concern. Now අපි ඔකම හිතාගෙන යනකොට we tend to believe that no, you can't have one universally accepted set of factors explaining what is motivation. That is not the truth. Motivation the factors that affect motivation can differ based on the company, based on what managerial levels we focus within each company, and say various other factors, various demographic factors as well. ඒ ඔක්කොමත් එක්ක ඒවා වෙනස් වෙනවා කියලා අපි හිතනවා නම් අන්න එතකොට අපි අපේ හිතේ තියෙන අදහස තමයි the reality is not universal, right? It is inside the company, right? මේ දේවල් තීරණය වෙන්නේ කම්පැනි එක ඇතුළත තියෙන යම්කිසි කරුණු කාරණාවල් මත මිසක් කාටත් පොදු දෙයක් නෙමෙයි ඒක කියන එක. Right? So now we can see that this ontology, right, falls into two parts, which is, say, known as subjective ontology and objective ontology. As you can see here, you can see objective, right? And you can see it's socially constructed, it's not objective. So it's subjective to the conditions within the company. It's a subjective reality.
Yes.
හරි එහෙම හිතනවා නම් අපි එතකොට එතනදී අපේ අදහස මත අපි යන්න ඕනේ pathway එක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඔන්නෝක තමයි ontology කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So what is ontology? In very simple terms, it is the assumptions about the nature of reality. What kind of ontologies can be there? There can be two types of ontologies. One is external. You think that the reality is external to the context. The other one is where you think the reality is internal to the context. Okay? So this is what you mean by ontology. Now the next one is epistemology. That is where you can see assumptions about how we come to know, how knowledge is created. Then අපි හිතන්න පුළුවන්, say how we get to know, how we can acquire the knowledge. මට හිතන්න පුළුවන් අර ඒ තියෙන topic එක ගැන මට පොත් කියවුවා නම්, journal articles කියවුවා නම් අන්න මට knowledge හම්බ වෙනවා කියලා මට හිතන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් මට හිතන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම knowledge අරගෙන වැඩක් නෑ, මේක මේ පොත්වල තියෙන දේවල් වලින් විස්තර වෙන එකක් නන් නෙමෙයි මේක අමුතු එකක්. So we can assume in that case, no, we can't have, we can't accept that already available knowledge can explain the specific circumstances in this problem. Therefore, to acquire the knowledge, we have to closely interact with those who are faced with the problem and then figure out what is going on there. අන්න එතකොට මම දැනුම සොයීමට හිතන විදිහ දැනුම තියනවයි කියලා හිතන දේවල් වෙනස් වෙනවා. Okay, so that's how we can find the epistemology can be explained. So once again, epistemology is about where you think the knowledge is and how you think you can acquire the knowledge, or how the knowledge is created. Okay? Then you have the third one, that is axiology. Axiology is assumptions about the value system. මේ දවස්වලත් ඉතින් මේ සිද්ධ වෙන දේවල් වල හැටියට එක එක්කෙනාගේ value system අපූර්වට අපිට පේනවනේ. හරි. එතකොට අපි දැන් හිතන්න ඒ කියන්නේ say some people value say when they help others, some people don't value it, and you know, even with the rules and regulations they try to look at their own personal satisfaction. You know, people have different values. So now what we look at here is where we have say, for example, now mama researcher කෙනෙක් විදියට මට හිතන්න පුළුවන් මේ questionnaires ටිකක් හදලා ඔක Google Forms වල හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් printed questionnaires වල හරි බෙදලා ඔය ටික select කරගත්තා නම් ඇති. මට මේකට respond කරන අයගේ වග විස්තර උනාට වඩා දැනගන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. ඒක විදිහක් හිතන විදිහ. තව කෙනෙක් හිතන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම data collect කරලා හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් තව කෙනෙක්ට කියලා data collect කරලා මේ වැඩේ හරියන්නේ නැහැ. මමම ගිහිල්ලා මේකේ ඉන්න මිනිස්සුන්ට කතා කරලා ඇත්තටම මොකද්ද උනේ, කොහොමද උනේ, ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒකට මුහුණ දුන්නේ කොහොමද, ඒ ඇත්තටම තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකද්ද කියලා මමම closely interact කරලා මේක ගැන විස්තර හොයන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතන value system එකක් තියෙන කෙනෙක් ඉන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. So that is where we have different value systems, and based on that also the way we develop our philosophy can be different. So in other words, the philosophy that we have towards approaching our study can vary based on the ontological, epistemological, axiological viewpoints that we have. එතකොට ඔන්න මම නැවතත් කියනවා ontology, epistemology, axiology කියලා කියන්නේ research onion එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන කෑලිවත් එහෙමත් නැත්නම් research philosophies වත් නෙමෙයි. ontology කියලා කියන්නේ මේ reality එක ගැන අපි දරන මතය, epistemology කියලා කියන්නේ knowledge එක create කරන විදිය සහ knowledge එක acquire කරගන්න විදිය ගැන අපි දරන මතය, value system එක කියලා කියන්නේ අපි එක එක්කෙනාගේ values. එච්චර simply. ඒට ඔය කියන කාරණාවල් තුන උඩ අපිට තියෙන philosophy එක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. දැන් අපි යනවා philosophies හතරක් ඔයගලන්ට පේනවා. මේකේ තව මේ onion එකේ different versions වල මේ philosophies තව දුරටත් හදලා ගොඩක් විදියට පේන තියෙන versions උත් තියෙනවා. So this 4 is enough for us to continue. Let's start off with positivism philosophy. Here you tend to believe that your problem can be approached where you have to collect large amount of data, and then you have to, because of that, the large amount of data, you obviously can't say interview large number of people. Therefore you have to use a data collection instrument like a questionnaire. Then obviously the large numbers can't be like interviews, so it has to be collected through a structured set of questionnaires. Then obviously you have to analyze that data using statistical methods. හරිද? අන්න එහෙම හිතනවා නම් එතකොට අපේ අපි හිතන විදිහ හරිම structured approach එකක් ගැන තමයි කල්පනාව. හරිද? Right? So you can see here, positivism can be defined as research approaches that employ empirical methods, make extensive use of quantitative analysis, or develop logical calculi to build formal explanatory theory. එතකොට අපි මොකක්ද කරන්නේ? අපි මෙතනදී අර වගේ හරීම structured approach එකකින් තමයි වැඩේ කරගෙන යන්නේ. දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ හිතන්න ඔය structured approach එකකට යන මිනිස්සයාට තියෙන ontology එක මොකක්ද කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්? I want your answer. ඒ විදිහට structured approach එකකට යන කෙනාට තියෙන්නේ subjective ontology එකක්ද objective ontology එකක්ද? හිතලා කියන්න ඕන. I want your answers. Are you with me?
Objective ontology.
Very good, very good. I like it. Right. You have an objective ontology. හරිද? ඒකට positivism philosophy එකක් තියෙන කෙනෙකුට objective ontology එකක් තියෙන්නේ. එයා හිතනවා මේක මේ theory එකක් ගෙනහල්ලා analyze කරලා වැඩේ කරගන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට obviously theory එක test කරන්න නම් අපිට large amounts of data අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. එතකොට ඒක අවශ්‍ය වෙනකොට statistics උත් අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. අන්න එතකොට obviously අපිට structured approach එකකට යන්නත් වෙනවා. හරිද? So that's a good answer, right? Now let's look at the other philosophies. You have realism. Right? I'll come to the interpretivism and then come to realism. What you mean by interpretivism is kind of the complete opposite of positivism. You can see interpretivism advocates it is necessary that the researcher to understand the differences between humans in our role as social actors. එතකොට අපි එතනදී හිතනවා එක එක්කෙනා මේ ප්‍රශ්නයට මුහුණ දීලා ඉන්න විදිහෙන් තමයි අපි මේක දැනගන්න පුළුවන්. අපි මෙතනදී ඒ කියන්නේ එක එක්කෙනාගේ perceptions ඒගොල්ලොන්ව හම්බ වෙලා in detail කතා කරලා තමයි මේ වැඩේ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා අපි හිතනවා. හරිද? අන්න එහෙම කෙනෙකුට දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ කියන්න මෙතන තියෙන මොන වගේ ඔන්ටොලොජි එකක්ද? Can you tell me? Is it an objective ontology or a subjective ontology?
More of a subjective nature.
Very good, right? You think it's subjective, and you think the way people face it and the way people understand it, the way they come up with various actions, all depend on the context. හරිද? දැන් ඔන්න හොඳට අපිට තේරෙනවා we look at positivism and interpretivism, we find they are like opposite of each other. So this can be in a different way interpreted as anti-positivism. Interpretivism can be interpreted as say we were looking at interpretivism philosophy, and what I said was that interpretivism is very much like anti-positivism, because positivism looks at a very structured way to approach the problem, whereas interpretivism wants say a very subjective approach. We don't know what's going on in the context, so we would like to see based on the way things go on, we may have to change the approach. Right. So now in between you find realism, and also there is on the other end pragmatism. If you look at realism sometimes you can assume is a combination of quantitative, deductive and qualitative, but realism also includes another part which is called collecting data through experience, through observations. ඒවත් අයිති වෙනවා. හරිද? දැන් අපි quantitatively analyze කරනකොට අපිට data අයිති වෙන්නේ එක්ක already available. දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ අපි census and statistics department එකේ තියෙන data අරගෙන කරනවා නම් ඒකත් quantitative. අපි questionnaires දීලා data අරන් කරනවා නම් ඒකත් quantitative. ඉතින් දෙකම අපි අයිති වෙන්නේ අර positivism කියලා කියන එකට. හරිද? Structured approach. Interpretivism කියන්නේ අපි interview කරලා අපි කතා කරලා perceptions දැනගෙන අදහස් දැනගෙන යන්නේ. නමුත් realism කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක interpretivism වලින් එන අර කතා කරන එකට විතරක් සීමා වෙන්නේ නැතුව සමහර විටක researcher ගිහිල්ලා ජීවත් වෙලා මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක අත්දැකීමෙන් දෙයක් කරන එකක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. හරිද? ඒ වගේම එතනදී මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක කතා කරලා යම් කිසි දෙයක් තියෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. Right? So we don't go into the quantitative, neither the perceptions only kind of a approach here. So එතකොට ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙනවා. දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ කරන research එකකට මේ realism philosophy කියලා කියන එක ගැලපෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කියන එක. හරිද? Then you have the next philosophy called pragmatism. You can see here very simply. Pragmatism holds that the most important determinant of epistemology ontology axiology adopted is research question. ඒ කියන්නේ pragmatism philosophy එකක් තියෙන පුද්ගලයා හිතනවා මම quantitative විතරක් වෙලා ගිහිල්ලා හරියන්නේත් නැහැ, qualitative විතරක් වෙලා හරියන්නේත් නැහැ, මට මේ දෙකම ඕනේ. මොකද මගේ ප්‍රශ්නයට theory වලින් එන address කරන්න පුළුවන් පැත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. theory වලින් විතරක් address කරන්න බෑ. ඒකටම ආවේනික වෙච්ච ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩකුත් තියෙනවා. එතකොට මට මේකට සමහර විටකදී quantitatively questionnaire එකකින් data collect කරලා on the other side you may think of collecting data by interviewing respondents also. So that is because you think that both are required. You need details on one side and you need the structured approach on the other side, and you want to combine the two so that you get a clear picture of the problem rather than going into any ideology මන්නං quantitative මන්නං qualitative එහෙම නැතුව මට මේ දෙකම ඕනේ කියලා කියන අදහසේ එහෙමත් නැත්නම් මම බලන්නේ මේ දෙකෙන්ම මම quantitative qualitative මයි කියලා කියන්නේත් නැතුව මේ දෙකෙන් දෙක combine කරන අතරවාර එක පැත්තකට වැඩියෙන් බර වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් depending on the type of the problem that I am faced with. Okay, so you can see now you have the 4 different philosophies in this, right? And how we develop each of those philosophies. Okay? Now, once you filter through the first layer, maybe you have a positivism philosophy, interpretivism, or a pragmatism philosophy. As I said, unlikely to be a realism philosophy. Say you develop, you move on to the next layer. How do you figure out whether you are having a, say, deductive approach or an inductive approach? Okay, so can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so now we are looking at, based on your philosophy, how you come to the, you can see the screen, can you?
Yes, madam, you can say that straight.
You can see the screen, can you?
Yes,
Yes, madam. Yeah.
Yes, madam, we can see.
Right, okay. So now we are trying to see එහෙමනම් අපි එතනින් එහාට කොහොමද මේ inductive deductive කියන approaches දෙකෙන් එකක් තෝරගන්නේ, right? So we know we have already have some kind of understanding about what is deductive and what is inductive. So this is the two ends of the story. So when we say deductive, we start from theory. අන්න එතකොට අපි මොකද වෙන්නේ? අපි consumer loyalty නම් අන්න loyalty theory ටික බලනවා, motivation නම් motivation theories බලනවා, employee retention නම් ඒකට හරියන theories බලනවා. ඒතර අපි theory එකක් අරගෙන ඒකෙන් hypothesis develop කරගෙන ඒකට හරියන data collect කරගෙන යන approach එකක් තමයි deductive approach කියන්නේ. On the other side, we make observations, we develop patterns, and then we may have tentative hypothesis and finally end up in theory. This is what the inductive approach is. Okay, so then what ඔයගොල්ලෝ ආයිමත් කියන්න මෙතන positivism philosophy එකක් තියෙන කෙනා යන්නේ inductive පැත්තටද deductive පැත්තටද? Yes.
Inductive.
Inductive or deductive?
Inductive.
Now, what is positivism? You're having a very structured approach. You come to positivism with an objective ontology where you think that theory explains the situation. Okay, what is interpretivism? You think you can't expect the theory to explain, so you have to make your own observations and come to conclusions based on your findings. Then positivism and inductive, the deductive,
It's due to my own findings. It's inductive.
no.
Yes,
I said positivism is where you look at applying an already existing theory. Correct?
Existing theories. If it is existing theory, it's deductive.
It's deductive, no? So because you think that theory, whatever the theory or the existing knowledge or what is already available, right, explains the problem here. එතකොට මම consumer loyalty නම් loyalty වලට තියෙන theory කියනවා. and එතකොට purchasing behavior නම් ඒකට හරියන theory කියනවා. ඒකට තමයි theory ම ගෙනහල්ලා ඒ theory එක test කරන පැත්තට යනවා නම් positivism philosophy leads you to step on to the deductive approach. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes,
If
madam.
it is interpretivism philosophy, you step on to what? Inductive approach. හරිද? Is it clear? Right. එතකොට දැන් pragmatism approach එකක් තියෙන කෙනාට සමහර විටක එයා බොහෝ විට deductively පටන් අරගෙන පොඩ්ඩක් ඒකට වැඩිපුර interpretation එකක් දෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඔය දෙක combine වෙලා තමයි ඔය pragmatism approach එක යන්නේ. ඒ combine වෙන වෙලාවෙදී එයා interpretivism පැත්තට වැඩි බරක් දෙන්න හෝ deductive පැත්තට වැඩි බරක් දෙන්න හෝ inductive පැත්තට වැඩි බරක් දෙන්න හිතනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? realism වලත් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට තියෙන්නේ inductive approach එකක්. හරිද? Because basically say you make your observations or you make your say findings by specifically studying the context rather than relying more on theory. The next layer you can see has 7 different research strategies. You find experiment, survey, case study, action research, grounded theory, ethnography, archival research. උඩින්ම තියෙන experimental research. So I will explain you what you actually mean by experimental study. So let me show you through a presentation. Can you see a slide, experimental design?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll show you one slide here. You can see here, we are treating these 3 plants using 3 different liquids. Right? What we want to see is whether the growth of the plant can differ based on the way we treat it. Then මෙහෙම experiment එකක් කරනවා නම් can we have a tomato plant on A and a chili plant on B and a different plant on C? No. Why? Then we can't measure. Not only that, we have to make sure that other things like the soil condition, the humidity, sunlight, and various other factors related to the growth of this plant should all remain constant. අපි ඒ වගේම මෙතන පේනවා මේ ගහ එකම සයිස් එකට ගහක් අපි තියාගන්නත් ඕනේ. දවස් 3ක් ඒකට ට්‍රීට් කරන එක විතරක් ඒ ට්‍රීට්මන්ට් එකේ වෙනස විතරක් අපි බලනවා. හරිද? If you see here, right? Look at this. experimental procedure where the research participants are ignorant, right? And here you can see, or you can say blind to the expected outcome of the experiment. You can see this is where you can see controlled pill and test pill here. So this is also called placebo, the blue one. And you can see that the people who are given these two different capsules are not told which one they are consuming. So people in the two groups again will have to be of similar demographic characteristics. So that means if you take, say, 50 people in each group, they should have male to female split in the same way, age differences in the same way, and other whatever conditions should be the same, so that if there is a difference in their response to the drug, we can assume that it is purely due to the drug and it's not because of any other factor. So this is what you mean by experiment. In both cases here, and also when I showed the plants where we use different treatments, I emphasized on the fact that you have to control other things. If it is plant, I said the soil condition, the sunlight, the humidity, and whatever should remain the same. Here I said all the demographic characteristics of the people who participate in the experimental group and the control group. To the control group, we give a pill which does not contain the medicine. To the test group, we give a pill or capsule which contains the medicine, but they don't know which one they are swallowing, right? So that is again how we run an experiment. Then මෙතන තියෙන common characteristic එක මොකක්ද? අපි change කරන factor එක හැරුණකොට we can't change anything else, right? We can decide, say we choose one of the groups randomly to give the pill and the placebo, but of course we have controlled everything, right? So that nothing else can affect the results of our experiment. If you can see this one, you can see even the doctor is blind, okay? Now here the doctor say tests the condition of the patients who take the medicine and the placebo, but the doctor also is unaware of which group is given which pill. He can only say which group took the red one and which group took the blue one. Other than that, he also doesn't know. It's only the person who is administering the procedure knows that the blue one is the control pill and the red one is the test pill. It's like that. So the basic condition that you understand in experimental research is that we need a great amount of control. Okay, that's the basic feature. So again, right, that's something that you have to keep in mind, right? Then I will come back to where we were. In our research onion, you can see the next diagram or the next, say, layer, sorry, the next part of that layer is survey research. Can you see? Okay, right? So it's survey research. Can you see the onion diagram? Do you see the onion diagram?
Yes, madam.
You can see here, there is survey research next. Well, all of you know what is survey. Okay, all of you know what is survey. So what is survey? That is where you have to include a large number of people in your say research, and because you are having a large number of people, you will have to collect your data using a questionnaire. So since you're having large number of people, you will have to have structured questions, and due to the same reason, you will find that application of statistics is required. Okay, so well, we find that most of you conduct survey type of research. Okay, and the next one is case study research. When you say case study, you have to have a case. Usually, uh, we interpret a case as, let's say, you take a separate company and you look at a problem that is faced by a company. හැබැයි මේ ප්‍රශ්නය අපි නිකං සර්වේ එකකින් උත්තර දෙන්න යන ප්‍රශ්නයක්ම නෙමෙයි. මේක ඇවිල්ලා ටිකක් අපි මේ in depth analyze කරන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. හරිද? So you can see here case study, a study conducted to obtain a clear picture of a problem, examining the real life situation from various angles and perspectives using multiple methods of data collection. එතකොට මෙතනදී අර in depth යන analysis එකක් අපිට ඕනේ. හරිද? case study එකක. You can also see we have case study categorizations as single versus multiple case study, holistic case versus embedded case study. So I'll just explain a bit on those. Now, say for example, you have a company where you find this company bankrupted. Let's say some institution and you found it bankrupted. Now you're going to do your research to find why this company was bankrupt. If you do a research like that, will you only look at the financial aspects of the company? You might think that no, that alone would not explain the reasons for the bankruptcy. So you might think of looking at, okay, yes, we'll have to look at how the finance was managed. We'll have to look at how the marketing was managed. We'll have to look at how the people were managed. We'll have to see how the supply chain was managed, right? So you look at all aspects to see why did it happen, right? Along all directions. So you can see here, it's a single case. A, because we took one company. It's on the other categorization, it's a holistic case. Why? Because we look at it from a holistic viewpoint. We drill down along multiple pathways. That's why I said, I want to see what went wrong with finance, what went wrong with marketing, with HR, with supply chain, and so on and so forth. I want to see, right? So that's where I have a holistic, right? So according to the first categorization, it's a single case. According to the second categorization, it's a holistic case, right? So the next one is multiple and embedded cases. Multiple case means we have a company එකක් නෙවෙයි, the companies කීපයක් තියෙනවා. ඒකට මේ companies කීපෙම අපි analyze කරලා බලනවා. දැන් එතකොට අපිට multiple cases තියෙනවා. අපි embedded case එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ we are not looking at a holistic viewpoint. We look at along one direction, along one aspect only. දැන් මම මෙහෙම කිව්වොත් එහෙම මම mid level එහෙම නැත්නම් medium size apparel manufacturing companies 20ක් අරගෙන ඒ 20 කොහොමද employee retention among the machine operators මම study කරනවා නම් එතකොට මම ඒක quantitatively survey එකකින් උත් අරගෙන ඒගොල්ලන් interview කරලාත් අරගෙන ඒක ඒවා comparisons උත් කරනවා නම් එතකොට මගේ analysis එක අර quantitative වලට විතරක් සීමා වෙන්නේ නැහැ ඒක යම් සිද්ධියකට ඊට වඩා depth එකකට යනවා හැබැයි මම මේ companies වල අර retention of machine operators කියන aspect එක විතරයි බලන්නේ වෙන එකක් බලන්නේ නැහැ. So it is an embedded case. Since I'm taking more than one company, it's a multiple case. So this is what you have as case studies. In the research onion, the next type of research is called action research. You can see here, most appropriate while effective planned change action research is constant evolving project with interplay among problem, solution, effects, consequences, and new solutions. And මෙතනදී වෙන්නේ අපි මේ research එක කරන context එකේ අපි මොකක් හරි change එකක් introduce කරනවා. බලනවා මිනිස්සු ඒ change එකට respond කරන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒ කරන විදිය හැටියට අපි ඒක තවදුරටත් improve කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා බලන්න. එතකොට ඒක හරියට spiral එකක්. දැන් ගත්තොත් මෙන්න මෙහෙම say you start off with the change and then you introduce the change and then you see the results. Then in the next layer, you bring in the next set of changes. Then make up education you find this being much used. Say you introduce one method to teach and then see, okay, how the students respond to it, how they perform with it. And then you modify your method so that it will be even better. So you introduce your second round change and then you see how do students behave. Then you bring in more features into it and refine it even further so that it becomes even better. Then මේ එක සැරේ අපි change එක ගේන සැරේදී අපිට data collect කරන්න වෙනවා. ඒ data වල හැටියට අපි ඊළඟ change එක plan කරනවා. Right? So that's what you mean by action research. Right? So again, you may understand that according to our requirements, it's unlikely that this could be a choice for us. Okay. So the next one is grounded theory. You can see systematic set of procedures to develop an inductively derived theory from the data. Important tools of grounded theory are theoretical sampling, coding, and constant comparison. මෙතනදී නම් අපිට theory එකක් practice කරනවට apply කරන එක නෙමෙයි මෙතන කරන්නේ. theory එකක් හොයාගන්නේ. හරිද? එතකොට අපි grounded theory වගේ approach එකකට යනකොට එහෙමත් නැත්නම් case study approach එකට යනකොට මේ දෙකේම තියෙන ලොකුම වෙනස තමයි we don't do any planned change to the context. හරිද? අපි වෙන දේ වෙන්න ඇරලා අපි බලනවා මොකද්ද මෙතන වෙන්නේ. හරිද? දැන් grounded theory කියලා කියන එකේදී අපිට සමහර වෙලාවට data බොහෝ වෙලාවට we may have to collect data at multiple points of time, right? So say initially, how did it evolve, and after a while, how say people reacted to it, and then how has it changed up to now. So likewise, it involves data collecting over a reasonably longer period of time also. So once again, unlikely to be your choice. Okay. Then you have the next one, ethnography. You can see here. Social science research method relies heavily on, of course, personal experience and possible participation, not just observation, and researchers trained in art of ethnography. So then මේක මට විස්තර කරන්න තියෙන ලේසිම example එක තමයි, you may have heard that there was a great social scientist in our country who say died, I think about 10 years back. He wrote a book about beggars and the life of beggars in our country. How did he write this book? Do you know?
I think he became a beggar.
Excellent. He became a beggar. He disguised himself as a beggar so that no one could recognize him, and he led the life of a beggar to realize how beggars live. So, other than becoming a beggar, do you think anyone can understand the life of a beggar? Right? I mean, obviously, we can't interview beggars. Maybe we don't get the truth, or we can't give questionnaires definitely to the beggars. So that approach is completely out. So this is the only way. So that's where you find, say these are parts of social science related research. So that's why I said, say personal experience, possible participation, not just observation. Okay. So again, ethnography research is very much into this social science type of research, and again, very unlikely to be your choice because our research is into business type of topics. Okay. Then you have archival research as the last strategy. When you say archival research, you conduct your research based on the already available data. I collect all the newspaper articles that were published based on a certain topic. දැන් අපි උදාහරණයක් විදිහට අපි කියමුකෝ සුනාමි එක තිබිච්ච කාලේ සුනාමි එක ගැන මිනිස්සු ලියපු ඔක්කොම ආටිකල්ස් ගන්නවා. කොරෝනා තියෙනකොට කොරෝනා ගැන තියෙන ඒවා ගන්නවා. ඒකට මිනිස්සු කොහොමද ඒක ගැන හිතුවේ, ඒක ගැන දැනගත්තේ, ඒකට රියැක්ට් කරේ, ඒක එක රටවල් වල කොහොමද උනේ. ඒකට මට ඇනලිසිස් එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? දැන් මේක මම කිව්වොත් ඕගොල්ලන්ට apply වෙන විදිහ ගැන, you must be then thinking, okay, if I can get a data set from some other source, why can't I do a good research? Well, yes, a good idea. But of course, you find that there are problems also when you're particularly handling secondary data. Right? So I will therefore show you a dissertation which was conducted, which was carried out using secondary data, so that you understand what I'm trying to explain as the problems that are associated with say secondary data analysis. This might again be disrupted. If it stops at one point, we'll have about 15 minutes break and join. Okay? Can you hear me?
Okay,
Okay,
madam.
madam.
Yes, madam. Yeah.
ඕකේ එහෙනම් මැඩම් මේ 6 minutes තියෙන්නේ ඊළඟ link එකෙන් එන්න ඊට පස්සේ එනකොට session 3 එකෙන්
එනකොට හරි මම එහෙම කරන්න.
හරි
මම මේක explain කරන්න මට විනාඩි 5ක් තිබ්බනම් ඇති. එතකොට අපි එතනින් ඒක හැමනම්
හරි විනාඩි 5ක් තියෙනවා මැඩම් හරි
Okay.
දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේකේ topic එක බලන්න. Contextual analysis of industry-wide gender wage gap in Sri Lanka. So this student wanted to study the salary or the wage differences of male and female employees in Sri Lanka. Then ඕක අපිට data collect කරන්න බැහැනේ. So she collected data from the Census and Statistics Department, right, and analyzed this data, right. දැන් මෙතනදී ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති වුණා. මේක මෙහෙ එකක් නෙවෙයි, වෙන යුනිවර්සිටි එකක ස්ටුඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් මට assign කරපු කෙනෙක්. So she had her research proposal approved when she came to me. Only thing is, she was going behind the Census and Statistics Department for a long time to get the data, because there are certain procedures for us to get approvals to get data. It took quite some time, and then when she got the data set, එයා හිතපු විදිහේ variables ඒකේ තිබ්බේ නැහැ. එතකොට දැන් research එක කරන්න අර මුලදී plan කරපු දේ එතනින් කරගන්න බැරි වුණා. හරිද? So when you plan to do research, therefore you have to be extremely careful. First of all, if you have some knowledge about what is there in the data set, it's okay. Otherwise, planning to do say this kind of secondary data analysis is not a very good idea without knowing that you're getting the data, and also without knowing what you find in the data. So I'll show you this as a nice example. Can you see a bar chart on the screen? Hello?
Yes, madam.
Yes,
Yeah,
madam.
yeah. Yes.
You can see.
දැන් මේකේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න. හරි? enlarge the screen. හරි? දැන් මේකේ හොඳට බලනකොට තේරෙනවා education level එක වැඩි වෙනවා. No schooling up to grade 5, then 6 to O level, A level, post secondary. Then you see that wages of females are education level එක වැඩි වෙනකොට tendency එක තියෙන females ලගේ age එක wage එක අඩු වෙන tendency එකක් තියෙනවා. හරිද? එතකොට දැන් අපි මේක අරගත්තොත් එහෙම wage එක වැඩි වෙනවා. හරි, මේ එක එක වෙන වෙන industries නේ. This is wage difference in education level production industry. So here you can see මෙතන wage එක overall වැඩි වෙනවා. හැබැයි male and female wage gap එක එන්න වැඩි වෙනවා. education level එක වැඩි වෙනවා. පැහැදිලිද? Then you can see here again there's an overall increase, but in all cases you find there is a gap between male and females. However, it is the least when you find the post-secondary education level. Then අපිට secondary data analyze කරනකොට ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට මෙන්න මේ වගේ අපි further research එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් area එකක් identify කරගන්න එක තමයි වැඩි හරියක් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් research කරන්න බෑ කියලා කියන එක නෙමෙයි කියන්නේ. නමුත් අර plan කරලා අපිට ඕනේ මෙයාට උනේ මෙයා හිතපු variables ඒ data set එකේ තිබ්බේ නැහැ. I think අර අපි ඒක ගැන දැනගෙන research එක පටන් ගන්නවා නම් මේකේ මොනවද තියෙන්නේ කියලා, then we can plan our study based on what is available. Otherwise, if you don't know what is available and you think I'm going to get the data from census department, that does not seem to be a good idea. So likewise, you find, it's quite interesting. You can see that various descriptive analysis like this can be done, right? But doing, say, correlations and regression was difficult with this data set, and the way the data is, දැන් අපි 1 to 5 scale එකෙන් select කරන්න ඕනි කියලා හිතන එක ඒගොල්ලෝ yes no විදියට select කරලා නම් අපිට correlation run කරන්නත් බෑ. හරි? So that was the problem here. So back again, I think we may be having just a couple of minutes perhaps. So back again, coming to where we were with the research onion, we have come into the third layer of the research onion, where we have described the research strategies.
Madam, 1 minute තියෙන්නේ.
Oh, hi. So we have looked at the philosophies, we have looked at the approaches, we've looked at the strategies. මට ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බේ නැතුව පොඩ්ඩක් පාරක්. So now we came up to this, and then we have the next layer. The you can see mono method, mixed method, and multi method. When you say mono method, you look at only one. ඒ කියන්නේ either quantitative or qualitative, right? Once again, you have එක method එකකින් data collect කරන, දැන් මම කියන්නේ දැන් අපි questionnaire එක විතරක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා කියලා හිතන්නකො. එතකොට mono method quantitative. හරිද? මම interview කරනවා විතරක් කියලා හිතන්නකො. එතකොට mono method qualitative. හරිද? දැන් මම interview වලිනුත් collect කරලා මේ survey එකකිනුත් collect කරනවා නම් එහෙම අන්න එතකොට මට තියෙනවා mixed method එකක්, because I have quantitative qualitative mixing. හරිද? ඕකේ තව එකක් තියෙනවා mono method, mixed method, multi method කියලා. When you say multi method, you find that you're using either quantitative or qualitative. හරිද? Here you can see multi method. I will, right? You can see. So you have either quantitative or qualitative. If you say mono method, it's one. Say for example, you're using a survey, that means mono method quantitative. If you are using only interviews, it's mono method qualitative. But if you say mixed, you are having both quantitative and qualitative. But multi method, you can see multi method quantitative means, for example, you collect data using a questionnaire based on a survey, and also you collect the already available secondary data, or else you make structured observations, which means you have a predetermined set of categories. If it is there, you will say yes. If it is not there, you will say no, or you will just pick the level of each variable that you observe. So it's again structured, and that becomes quantitative. The multi-method, again, qualitative means you conduct interviews, you conduct your detailed observations. Focus group means you bring all your participants to one place and then have a discussion kind of thing. So they are all qualitative. You have still multiple methods. So in our case, we find our students have mostly the mono method quantitative, because they most of them like to do the survey type of research, or else mono method qualitative, because some of them use interviews only. Some of the students like to combine the two, so they have mixed method research. Okay, so now we are entering into the layer of the onion that is just before the core, where you have time horizon and you have two time horizons. One is cross-sectional, the other one is longitudinal. When you say cross-sectional research, you find that your data collection happens at one point of time. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපි සර්වේ එකක් කරනවා නම් අපි ඔක්කොම ක්වෙස්චනර්ස් ටික බෙදලා ඉවර වෙලා එක සතියක් හරි දෙකක් හරි ඇතුළත එකපාරක් data collect කරගන්නවා. අපි ආයිමත් සැරයක් ඊළඟ ක්වෙස්චනර් එක අරගෙන රෙස්පොන්ඩන්ස් වලට තව දෙයක් අහන්න ඒගොල්ලෝ ගාවට යන්නේ නැහැ. Right? One shot. Then if it is longitudinal, we find that the data collection happens at multiple points of time. දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ time series ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙන. එතකොට අපි ඒ data collect කරන්නේ multiple points of time. අපි ඒ වගේම දැන් හිතන්නකෝ ethnographic research එකක් කරන කෙනෙක් ඒ data collect කරගන්නේ කාලයක් තිස්සේ. එතකොට ඒවා longitudinal studies. හරිද? So this is how we explain the research onion. So in other words, I have explained what is philosophy. We have 4 different philosophies where positivism is very structured. Interpretivism goes through mostly the perceptions collected through interviews, whereas realism has a part of observation and also sometimes the researchers' participation. Then pragmatism is where you combine both quantitative, qualitative viewpoints without say strongly holding on to one. You know what is inductive and deductive approaches. Then you have different research strategies, and then you have the research choices, then you have the time horizon. මේ සේරගෙම ෆිල්ටර් වෙලා ආවට පස්සේ තමයි අපිට කියන්න වෙන්නේ අපි data collect කරන්න පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ මොකද්ද, ඒ අපේ sample එක කීයද, population එක මොකද්ද, what kind of statistical methods we are using. So you can only talk about that once you explain all these parts. Okay, now here I would actually like to discuss a few examples with you before I step on to my next method. Okay, so that you understand very clearly how you can describe your research based on the research onion, and I will step on to the next method as well. So let me take just a few topics and discuss with you. Can you see a blue color screen on the
Yes, madam.
right, saying topics? All right. I would like you to tell me, right, what you would consider as the say philosophy, the approach, the strategy, the choice, and the time horizon of this research topic. I hope you see that. It's about impact of celebrity endorsement on the purchasing behavior of young adults with respect to the beverages. Right, I'm going to give you 1 minute to think. Okay, think and tell me. Are you ready? Okay. Once again, this is the topic. Okay. You saw the topic, right? We were talking about celebrity endorsement. All right. So, what's the problem? do you see the old screen with the PowerPoint presentation or something else? Hello?
We can see the blue color one.
Blue color one. So it's about the celebrity
Yeah, impact of celebrity endorsement and
Hari.
purchasing of young
So,
adults.
I'll just give you a brief interpretation about the problem also, right? මට හොඳට කල්පනා කරලා උත්තරයක් ඕන හන්දා, right? So here, this research wants to look at say whether endorsing a particular celebrity can help in terms of say purchasing behavior, can whether it can affect. Can you see a orange color screen now?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So දැන් ඔන්න බලන්න මොකද්ද මේ මෙතන තියෙන කතාව. We are looking at celebrity endorsement with respect to beverages. So what can you see as examples? This you can see how Angelo Matthew say endorses Milo. Then you find Chaturika. She was there, I think, in about 2013-14, and now you can see Roshan. Then here you can see how Coca-Cola has welcomed Bhatya Santosh. Then you find Malinga with Pepsi. Then you find Sangakkara with Viva. And you find, of course, the foreign celebrities as well, like this. Then the research looks into whether endorsing a celebrity can actually make any impact on the purchasing behavior with respect to young adults. I hope the research topic is clear to you. With respect to this, actually, you find, of course, defining the characteristics a celebrity should possess to be a good endorser. Right? So, good ambassador for the product. Right? I'm back again now with the previous slide. Harida, maker. So you can see here, these characteristics were brought about by analyzing various theories. You find actually quite a number of theories explaining celebrities' like characteristics. So then again, I'm coming back to the research onion. Right, here you are. You tell me, what are you going to have as your philosophy, as your approach, and then the strategy and the choice. What is your philosophy? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ada.
What is your philosophy? Yes. So when you're going to do this study, ඕගොල්ලෝ data collect කරන්න ලොකු population එකක් දෙන්නේ පොඩි population එකක් දෙන්නේ?
It's a quite a large population.
Very good.
madam disconnect වුණාද? ළඟයි. hello.
මැඩම් ගිහිල්ලා වගේ නේද?
disconnect වුණාද කොහෙද?
ආ
Hello, Himali.
දේශානි පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න මේ මැඩම්ව කනෙක්ට් කරගන්න try කරන්න පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න.
Sorry. Okay.
නෑ නෑ මැඩම් කැන්සල් කරන්නකෝ ආයේ මේ කළා ආයේ අර ලින්ක් එකෙන් එන්නකෝ මට මැඩම්ව පෙන්වන්නේ නෑ තාම. මම අන්තිමට අර එවපු එකෙන් ඔව් ඒක තමයි. මැඩම් හොට්ස්පොට් දාගෙන දෙන්නේ නැත්තම් නෝමල් ගෙදර තියෙන එකේ. සමහරලාට ඒකේ අර මේ වෙනවා ඇති මැඩම් ඩිස්කනෙක්ට් වෙනවා ඇති. නෑ මේ දේශානි එන්නේ මැඩම්ව පේන්නේ. එහෙම ආවනම් හොඳයි මැඩම් මේක තමයි. ඒක මේ මම අර නිකන් අර මොකුත් සෙෂන් කියලා දාන්න නැති දැන් මේ අර අන්තිමට එවපු ලින්ක් එකෙන් එන්න මැඩම්. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැති. එච්චර එහෙම වෙන්න විදියක් නෑ.
Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen, students?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
I think something went wrong with my internet connection and I joined back. So now we were talking about the celebrity endorsement and I explained the problem with a bit of say applications as well. So in your view, what is the philosophy that is practiced here? Is it positivism, realism, interpretivism, pragmatism? I explained all 4 different philosophies. Which one is it? You all said it's a large population, and you said that your data has to be collected, say, from that large population. Obviously, then your collection instrument looks like to be a questionnaire. එච්චර ලොකු population එකකින් නම් ලොකු sample එකක් ගන්නවා, ලොකු sample එකක් නම් interview කරන්න යන්න බෑ. And also I said that you have theories to begin with, your conceptual framework. එතකොට මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ?
Positive.
Very good. So you find your philosophy is positivism. හරිද? හරිද? Then if I ask you what kind of ontology you think you would have driven you to this, what kind of ontology you think would have driven you to this? Yeah, I discussed about, remember, the objective ontology, subjective ontology. So objective ontology එකක් ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මේක beverage වලටත් එකයි තව එකකටත් එකයි තවත් එකකටත් එකයි කොහොමද මේ celebrity කෙනෙක්ගේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ ලක්ෂණ ටික තමයි මෙතනට මම ගන්න. අන්න එතකොට මට objective ontology එකක් තියෙනවා. හරිද? So I land on positivism. What is your approach? Is it inductive or deductive?
Deductive.
Huh? Yes,
Deductive.
come on. Deductive, very good. So your approach is deductive. What kind of strategy are you going to use? දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝමනේ කිව්වේ ලොකු population එකක් නම් ඒතර data collection එක questionnaire එකකින් තමයි වෙන්නේ. එහෙමනම් මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ?
Survey.
Survey. So it's going to be a survey. අපි survey එකක් විතරයි නම් කරන්නේ quantitatively විතරයි කරන්නේ. එතකොට මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? mono method quantitative. අපි මේ questionnaire එක 4-5 පාරක් දෙන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. එකපාරයි දෙන්නේ. එතකොට cross sectional. Understand now? Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, madam.
Right. I'll show you another example. Sorry. Can you look at this here? AML stands for anti-money laundering. Okay, so we're looking at study on adoption of anti-money laundering controls, and we want to see whether the banking industry of Sri Lanka is geared to deter financial crime. So what kind of strategy, what kind of philosophy approach would you suggest? So this is about, say, how the illegal money controlled. I mean, whether the banks have proper mechanisms to control the circulation of illegal money in Sri Lanka, and to what extent those controls are successful in say, those mechanisms are successful in controlling this illegal money, say, mixing up with the legal sources. once again, I'm taking you back to the research onion. Yeah. Yes. Harry. Okay. So, can you suggest the philosophy? Yes, I'm waiting for you. Yes, what's the philosophy? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, madam.
Yeah, what's the philosophy? This is the onion. What's the philosophy? දැන් මේ වගේ රිසර්ච් එකකට උත්තර දෙන්න දන්න කට්ටිය කවුද කියන්න බලන්න. Yes. Who will know to answer the questions about, say, how the what kind of controls are there, whether these controls are successful? ඒක බැංක් එකක වැඩ කරන ඕන කෙනෙකුට ඒකට උත්තරේ දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? Are you there?
I think can't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. You can hear.
Yeah. So can anyone who is working in a bank answer this question?
Can't.
Can't. Very good. So who will be your respondents? A very limited crowd who are, say, handling the compliance. Okay. So again, your population is very limited, and to begin with, you don't know how things happen in Sri Lanka. You can only find the common viewpoints that other countries follow, but the way things happen here and how things happen here, well, we don't know. We have to talk to them and see, and it requires a detailed discussion. නිකන් අපිට කොළ බෙදලා ඔයාට මේක තියනවාද අරක තියනවාද අනිත් එක තියනවාද කිව්වට හරියන්නේ නැහැ. මෙතන අපිට ඩීටේල් රිසර්ච් එකක් අවශ්‍යයි. එතකොට මොකක්ද යන ෆිලොසොෆි එක? It's not going to be positivism. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
So where do you go? You go into interpretivism. Interpretivism කියලා කියන්නේ අපි ඉන්ටර්වියු කරලා තමයි මේකට උත්තරේ දැනගන්න වෙන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලන්ට කතා කරලා perceptions ඔයගොල්ලෝ මොන වගේ දේවල්ද කරන්නේ, ඒවා කොච්චර සාර්ථකයිද කියලාද හිතන්නේ, ඒවයින් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කොච්චර කාලයක් ඒවා කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරගන්න පුළුවන් වුණාද, අන්න ඒ විදිහට අපිට අහන්න. එතකොට අපි මූලිකව හොයාගත්ත දේවල් ටික තමයි අපි මම conceptual framework එකේ තිබ්බේ. හැබැයි අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට කතා කරනකොට ඒවා වෙනස් වෙන්නත් අපිට පුළුවන්. හරිද? So what is your approach, inductive or deductive?
Inductive.
Very good, inductive. What is your approach, strategy? It will be a case study. අර මම case study ಜಾති ගොඩක් කිව්වා. ඒකට කියනවා embedded case study කියලා. මොකද මම බැංකු 10ක් අරගෙන ඒ 10න් මේ compliance officers ලාගෙත් එක්ක ඉන්ටර්වියු කරන්නයි වෙන්නේ. නැත්නම් මේක හිතා ගන්න බෑ. So we have here the next one to be chosen as a case. Then you come into mono method, qualitative interview විතරයි. Then you have cross-sectional, because you're not going to talk to the people who interviewed once again after analyzing your data to collect another set of data. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරිද? So this is how it goes. Right? I have more examples, but I would like to step into the next method. That means ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ පොතේ තියෙන method එකක් තියෙනවනේ. හරිද? So this is the view of Saunders, and I'm going to discuss the viewpoint of Umasekaran. එයාගේ තියෙනවා research එකක් හොයාගන්න, research එකක් describe කරන්න තව framework එකක්. මම ඒක ගැන ඔයගලන්ට කියනවා. So now I'm going to switch on to the other one, and you will have to listen to me extremely carefully, because at the end I'm going to ask you which framework you like most, you support most. We have less than 1 minute to stop this session. We'll quickly come up with the next. Okay, it might get cut. We'll get quickly connected. හිමාලි කෙලිම session 4 එකට යනවා හොඳේ. හරි. Less than 1 minute දැන් යන්නේ. හරි. Has come up with this diagram, if you can see. This is what is called the research design framework. If you carefully see, you can see there are shaded boxes and unshaded ones. He says purpose of research. This is one way that you can categorize your research as exploratory, descriptive, hypothesis testing type of research. What do you mean by exploration or exploratory research? Means the kind of research that you have to drill down deeply and analyze the problem in more detail. That's the kind of thing. එතකොට දැන් අපි ඉන්ටර්විව් වලින් ෆයින්ඩින්ග්ස් වලින් යන ඒවා. එතකොට අපි තව කතා කළා අර රීසර්චර් say taking part in the research, like in the example where he discussed as a bigger this professor, how he conducted the research. And also we looked at action research, where we take series of actions with the observations we make. Say as the results of one action, we take the next action kind of things. They are all exploratory research. Descriptive research කියන්නේ අපිට hypothesis එකක් නැහැ. හැබැයි අපි data අරගෙන මොනවද ඒකේ තියෙන categories, ඒ categories අතර තියෙන cross comparisons. අර මම example එකක් විදිහට wage comparison එකේදී male female wage වෙනස් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද, education level එකත් එක්ක ඒවයි gap එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? Descriptive. We don't have a hypothesis. We don't try to find the relationship between variables, but we just try to see how they differ based on groups. The next one is hypothesis testing. That is where we have to test the relationship between variables, or there are other types of hypotheses as well. Then he describes the research as, or based on, type of investigation. You can see causal relationships, correlations, group differences. When you say causal, these are the type of research where you have a lot of controls. So I showed you examples where, say, when we have 3 different treatments to a plant, we have to control the other things and only change the treatment, let it be fertilizer or water or whatever. That's causal relationships. I showed you another one where how a drug is given to patients with lot of controls. Then, I mean, causal relationship means beyond doubt you try to prove that there is a relationship or not with respect to the variable that you're going to test. Correlations meaning you're not trying to make any control, මුකුත්ම control කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. But you merely test the relationship between the variables. එතකොට අපි දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ service quality එක වැඩි වෙනකොට customer satisfaction එක වැඩි වෙනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් brand image එක හොඳ වෙනකොට consumers ගේ post purchase intention එක වැඩි වෙනවද? ඒ වගේ දේවල් අපි බලනකොට අපි මේ control කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැනේ මොනවාක්වත් අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට දීලා data collect කරනවා මිසක් හරි. So those are correlational research. Group differences are connected with the descriptive research where I said, okay, even with the qualitative research, okay, when this group behaves like this, other group behaves like that, and what were the similarities, what were the differences, kind of things. Then you have extent of research interference. Then අපි නිකම්ම question එකක් අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා බෙදලා data collect කරගන්නවා නම් අපි කිසිම දෙයක් control කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. අපි මේ අපේ වැඩේ කරගන්න එක විතරයි කරන්නේ. නමුත් අර experimental research එකට මම පෙන්නුවාම මම කිව්වා දැන් ඒ drugs දෙනකොට you have a pill which carries the drug, another pill which does not contain the drug, and then you have to make sure that the two groups are similar in terms of age distribution, in terms of gender differences, in terms of other demographic characteristics. So you control a lot. අන්න එහෙම control කරනකොට අපි manipulate කරනවායි කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට minimal distribution එකක් තියෙනයි කියලා කියන්නේ අපි case study එකක් කරනකොට මිනිස්සුන්ට කතා කරලා data collect කරගන්න. එහෙම නැත්නම් question එකක් දීලා අපි survey එකකදී data collect කරගන්නවා කියලා කියන්නේ අපි we don't control. Constrained meaning you collect data under controlled environment. එතකොට අර experimental research එකක ඔක්කොම දේවල් control කරලා say soil condition and so on and so forth, you're having a constrained setting. නිකන් අපි මුකුත් කරන්නේ නැතුව normal situations යටතේ ගිහිල්ලා මිනිස්සුන්ට questionnaires දීලා data collect කරගන්නවා නම් අන්න ඒක අපි කියනවා non constrained කියලා. He says unit of analysis where he finds දැන් අපි මෙහෙම හිතන්නකෝ we collect data with respect to a study on say consumers purchasing behavior, and we ask questions about their say brand awareness and their perception about the price, the value for money, and then various other factors. And then we ask, okay, would you like to buy this or that? So we ask the independent variable questions and the dependent variable questions both from the same group of people. එතකොට අපේ data connect වෙන්නේ මේ එකින් එක respondent කෙනෙක් හරහා. මම මුලම දවස්වල scatter diagrams හදලත් මම පෙන්නුවා. Right? How these two sides connect with each other. So in that kind of research, we have each and every respondent as our unit of analysis. Now, look at a different example. Say, we would like to see whether the support given by the state sector health authorities has any connection with the number of deaths with respect to coronavirus. එතකොට මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? අපේ unit of analysis එක හිතන්න පුළුවන් මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? I'm waiting for your answer. Can you give me an answer? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Yes. I asked a question, I want your answer. We heard that more than 190 odd countries are affected with coronavirus. So we want to study whether the extent of government actions to mitigate this situation has any connection with the number of deaths reported. What is the unit of analysis of this study? හොඳට හිතලා බලන්න මේ රට අපි මෙතනදී ස්ටඩි එක කරන්නේ එක එක රටෙන් රටටනේ මේ රටේ හෙල්ත් සෙක්ටර් එක කොච්චර කන්ට්‍රිබියුෂන් එකක් කරාද ඒ රටේ මරණ කීයක් වාර්තා වුණා මේ රටේ හෙල්ත් සෙක්ටර් එක කොච්චර කරා එහෙනම් මේ රටේ මරණ කීයක් ආවද ඒකට රට කියලා කියන එක හරහානේ මේ දෙපැත්ත කනෙක්ට් වෙන්නේ පැහැදිලිද
Yes.
right so country becomes the unit of analysis. Another example, let's say you try to see whether say the literacy rate of people in a country has any connection with the GDP of that country. So again country is the unit of analysis. මොකද literacy rate එක වාර්තා වෙන්නේ country එකක් පිළිබඳව GDP එකක් country එකට individual කෙනෙකුට නෙමෙයි හරි දැන් මෙහෙම කිව්වොත් අපි බැංකුවක් අරගෙන ඒ බැංකුවේ එක එක බ්‍රාන්චස් වල තියෙන non performing rate එක branch wise අරගන්නවා. හරි? මේ branch wise non performing rate එක අපි connect කරගන්නවා. ඒ branch එකේ කොච්චර දුරට officers ලව train වුණාද? ඒ branch එකේ කොච්චර දුරට ඒවට දීලා තියෙන regulations වලට comply වෙනවද? එහෙම. එතකොට දැන් unit of analysis එක මොකක්ද? I want your answer. කවුරුත් කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I want your answer.
Study setting.
Huh? I said you're taking each and every branch of a bank and you ask them what their non-performing rate is with respect to each branch. Then you're trying to connect that with the say extent of training to the officers of that branch that was provided. What is the unit of analysis? So you can see that we are trying to connect the two sides across the branch. No? A branch එකේ officers ලට කොච්චර training දුන්නද? A branch එකේ NP එක එහෙනම් කීයද? ඒතකොට branch එකනේ අපේ unit of analysis එක වෙන්නේ. පැහැදිලිද? Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes
Okay. So you take employees in a company and you ask them to what extent you're satisfied with the salaries given to you and to what extent you are planning to leave this company. What is the unit of analysis?
Employee.
Individual employee. Harina? So that's how he has described what unit of analysis is, and time horizon I explained with the onion, where we have one shot or cross-sectional research when we collect data at one point of time, and longitudinal where we collect data at several points of time. So that's all I have. Then ඕගොල්ලෝ කියන්න අපි රිසර්ච් එකක් කරගත්තාම දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් ගාව පොත තියනවද රිසර්ච් methods පොත ටෙක්ස්ට් බුක් එක තියනවද?
Yes.
Okay. So you can open this diagram මං හිතන්නේ chapter 6 හරි 5 හරි දෙකෙන් එකක තියෙන්නේ. හරි? එතකොට දැන් මම you have to talk with me because otherwise you will not learn this. So I will show you various topics and you have to describe each research based on research design framework of Sekaran and based on research onion framework of Saunders. හරිද? දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ටරැක්ට් කරන්නේ නැතුව මේ වැඩේ කරන්න බෑ. හරි? So first of all, you tell me, do you like Saunders or do you like Sekaran? Do you like Saunders or do you like Sekaran? Yes?
Saunders is very
Why do you like Saunders?
description.
Why do you like
It
Saunders?
describes, the research describes more than Sekaran, I think.
Yes, you find it's very, if for example, Sekaran doesn't talk a
Detail.
word about philosophy, no? වචනයක්වත්
Yeah.
කියන්නේ. And Sekaran ඔක්කොම අර archival, sorry, the action research, grounded theory, ethnography වගේ research ඔක්කොම ගෙනල්ලා එක වචනයයි, exploration, that's it. හරි? And he appears to be more inclined towards quantitative research. හරි? දැන් එයා මේ experimentation, correlations මේ ඔක්කොම quantitative research. ඒකට මේවා මේ manipulation කරන ඒවා ඔක්කොම ගොඩාක් දුරට quantitative research වලට යන්නේ. හරිද? එතකොට එයාගේ ගොඩක් miss out වෙච්ච ගතියක් තියෙනවා. Whereas you find Saunders has a more structured approach than Umasekaran and මෙයාගේ එක හොඳකට තියෙන්නේ අර Saunders මේ onion එක මැද්දේ හිර කරලා තිබිච්ච data analysis කියන එක මෙයා මේ unshaded boxes කීපයක මේ විදිහට sampling data collection කියලා මෙයා detail කරලා තියෙනවා. That's the good side of it. හරිද? So you have to know these things. Right? Okay, right? I hope now you have a fair understanding of the tool. මතක නැත්නම් එහෙම දෙකේ diagrams දෙකක් දැන් ළඟ තියාගන්න. අපි දැන් discuss කරන්න යන්නේ මේ එක එකක් කොහොමද apply කරන්නේ කියලා. When you consider a research problem, right? Can you see the blue color screen again?
Yes, madam.
Hi. Okay, good. Right. We looked at this topic. What do you think of this topic? This student wanted to find whether the large-scale companies in Sri Lanka, right, have to what extent are they successful in identifying and detecting the employees' faking behavior? recruit කරන්න interviews වලට ආපුවම employees ට කියන්නේ මේ recruit කරන්න එන කට්ටියට කියන්න candidates ට කියන්න පුළුවන් මට මේක පුළුවන් අරක පුළුවන් අනිත් එකක් පුළුවන් ඒකට but when you actually get them to work they are not so smart, right? So do they have good mechanisms to identify and of course prevent the faking behavior of the applicants in the recruitment and selection? හිතන්න පුළුවන් මේ වගේ රිසර්ච් එකක් කොහොමද කරන්නේ? First of all, do you think it's quantitative or qualitative?
This is qualitative.
Qualitative, very good, very good. Why do you think it's qualitative?
It cannot be measured.
අන්න හරි. Cannot be measured විතරකුත් නෙමෙයි. අපිට මේක මේ ලංකාවේ වෙන විදිය ගැන එකපාරට හිතා ගන්න බෑ. ඒක දන්න මිනිස්සු ඉන්නේ මේ recruitment managers විතරයිනේ. ගොඩක් දෙනෙක්ගේ උත්තරයක් අපිට ගන්නත් බෑ. ලංකාවේ ඒක කොයි විදියට වෙනවද කියලා අපිට මේ තාම හිතාගන්න බැරි වගේ එකක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට අපිට ක්වොලිටේටිව් පැත්තට යන්න වෙනවා. එතකොට අපිට ඩීප්ලි ගිහිල්ලා බලන්න වෙනවා කොහොමද මේක කරන්නේ. So this research was done by interviewing the recruitment managers. Hari. So we identified these initial mechanisms through literature. There were, of course, theories and empirical findings as well. දැන් මේවා කොහොමද ඕගොල්ලෝ apply කරන්නේ මෙන්න මෙහෙම ඒවා apply කිරීම තුල ඕගොල්ලෝ කොයි මට්ටමකට මේ honest candidate කෙනෙක්ව අඳුරා ගැනීමට මේ පුළුවන් වුණාද? අන්න ඒක අපි ඇහුවේ සහ වෙනත් දේවල් මොනවා හරි තියෙනවද? ඒකට සමහර දේවල් අපිට තේරුණා ලංකාවේ නැහැ. එහෙම ප්‍රැක්ටිස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි සමහර දේවල් දැන් අපි කියමුකෝ මේ කියන්නේ වෙන රටවල් වල ටිකක් සැර විදිහට කියනේවා තාම ලංකාවේ ඒ තරම්ම මේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා අඩුයි. ඒ කියන්නේ මයිල් විදිහට යන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි තේරෙන භාෂාවෙන් කිව්වොත් ඉන්දියාවේ පොළු වලින් ගැහුවට තාම ලංකාවේ පොළු වලින් ගන්න පටන් ගන්න නැහැ. පේනවා ඇතිනේ. මේ දවස්වල හරි එතකොට අන්න ඒ වාගේ රටෙන් රටට මේවයි වෙනස්කම් තියෙනවා. එතකොට can you tell me the philosophy? Can you tell me the philosophy?
Yes.
Huh?
That is positivism.
දැන් මං කිව්වේ ඉන්ටර්වියුස් වලින් යන එක තමයි ඕගොල්ලෝමනේ කිව්වේ. එතකොට කොහොමද?
Interpretation.
Anna, hi. Very good. I like it. So you have interpretivism philosophy. මොකද අපි ඉන්ටර්වියු කරලා තමයි අපි මේකේ දැනගන්න වෙන්නේ මේක මේ කොයි විදිහට යන එකක්ද කියලා. ඒක ලොකෝයි මට්ටමට ඒක ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරනවාද කියන එක. Right? Then you have your approach. What? Can you describe the approach?
Inductive.
Anna, hari. Hari. So I will say you have an interpretivism philosophy and inductive approach. Hari. Then strategy will be
Case study.
very good. Because you will have to interview the recruitment managers. Then it will be mono method qualitative for the interviews විතරයි and it will be cross sectional. අපි 10 පාරක් interview කරන්න යන්න එකපාරක් කරයි. හොඳයි. Then I would like to once again come back to this one. හොඳයි. මේක විදියට ඕගොල්ලෝ කොහොමද ඔය රිසර්ච් එක describe කරන්නේ? It is right an exploratory research. හරිද? හරි? You can only see මෙතන causal උත් නැහැ correlation ඒ ඔක්කොම statistics තියෙනවනේ විතරයි. මෙතන තියෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේක විතරයි මේකට ඒ කියන්නේ එක companies වල කොහොමද ඒක වෙනස් වුනේ මේ අපිට තියෙන European countries වල තියෙන literature එකත් එක්ක අපි කොහොමද වෙනස් වුනේ so අපිට differences කියන්න පුළුවන් අපිට කිසිම interference එකක් කරන්න බෑ minimal interference non contrived අපි කියන විදිහටම ගිහිල්ලා ප්‍රශ්න අහනවා අපි qualitative research එකක් කරනකොට මෙන්න මේ unit of analysis කියලා කියන එක අපිට අදාළ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ unit of analysis කියන එක qualitative research වලදී විස්තර වෙන්නේ සානිකරම වෙනස් විදිහකට. ඒක නිසා මේක address කරන්න යන්නවත් එපා. Time horizon is one shot. හරිද? අපි අන්න ඒ විදිහට තමයි මේක යන්නේ. හරිද? So you can see how based on different say frameworks you can interpret your research. Hi. So now going to come to the next research problem. If you look at this, what can you say? What can you say? What is a philosophy and what is the approach? Can you okay? Right. I'm waiting for you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, madam. You can see.
yes.
එහෙනම් කියන්න බලන්න. In your view, will it be a quantitative or a qualitative study?
This is a quantitative one.
Very good. Very good. Why is it quantitative? Obviously, you have a very large customer base and you obviously can start off with theories, customer loyalty, data collect කරන්න වෙන්නේ ඒක නිසා questionnaire එකකින්. ඒකට අපිට හොඳටම තේරෙනවා දැන් කොයි පැත්තටද මේකෙන් අපිව යන්නේ කියලා. හරිද? හොඳයි. ඒතකොට research onion එකේ අපි කොහොමද යන්නේ නෑ? Yeah. Which philosophy?
Positivism.
Very good. Yes, very good. So you have a positivism philosophy. And you have what kind of approach?
Deductive approach.
Very good. And then you have a
Survey.
very good. Then mono method quantitative cross-section. Right? So if you look at again the Sekaran's viewpoint, you will see that you have this. So you have a quantitative study and you have a hypothesis. Variable for the loyalty affect. So it's a hypothesis testing study. It's not causal. It's correlational. You test using correlations. Say for example, service quality was a variable. You try to correlate service quality with the customer loyalty. You have minimal interference. You just distribute your papers, the questionnaires, and get back the answers. It is non-contrived. You're not going to change the setting. Your unit of analysis is each respondent or each customer of a mobile telecommunication network, and you're having a one-shot study. Okay. So this is how you can explain your research using the framework of Uma Sekaran. I'll take one more, right? Here. If you look at this one, how do you think you can do? Okay, So what you try to see is whether these retail apparel stores have, say, to what extent they have visual merchandising practiced through various methods like, say, dummy displays and flow merchandising, say, promotional signage, and various ways they practice visual merchandising. And then you have the impulse buying. This is as against the rational buying. To what extent these say visual merchandising techniques would affect a person to make an impulse purchase. Right. Is it quantitative or qualitative research?
Qualitative.
Come again?
It's qualitative.
Why do you say qualitative?
It's impulse buying.
Who buys? Who buys? Is it a big population or a small population?
It's a big population, madam.
Yeah. So are you having a small sample or a large sample?
It should consist of a fairly large sample.
Very good. If it is a large sample, what will be your data collection instrument?
It is more of a questionnaire type of a thing.
Very good. So are you having a more structured approach or a less structured approach?
Structure.
Very good. Now what is your philosophy?
Moral positivism.
Very good. So it's positivism philosophy. If it is positivism philosophy, what will be your approach? Will it be inductive or deductive?
Deductive.
Come again?
Deductive.
Deductive. Very good. What will be your strategy? You know that although there are 7 different strategies, the ones that we can think of are limited to surveys and case studies. Which one is this?
Survey.
Survey research. And you have mono method where you have one data collection instrument. You have multi method where either quantitative or qualitative but multiple data collection instruments. You have mixed method where you have mixing quantitative qualitative research. Which one is this?
Next
You're only collecting data using questionnaires, you said, no?
Yeah, mono.
one.
Mono method, mono quantitative. Is it a cross-sectional research or a longitudinal research?
Cross-section.
Cross-sectional, very good. On the very first day of our discussion, I described about applied research and basic research. Is it the basic research or an applied research?
Basic research.
Very good. It's basic research because it doesn't focus on any specific organization. Very good. Okay, we'll have a look at one more. I find there are only 6 minutes left. What I thought is I will maybe 1 or 2 examples I will discuss, but when we meet in the next class like this, I am going to ask you a lot of examples. I have about 20 more examples, and I want all of you to be, say, super smart, thoroughly know the research onion and the research design, so that we can have quick discussions and identify the research design with respect to each. Okay. So,
Madam, excuse
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Some of these presentations were not in the initial pack that we got it.
I'll
So-
send it across to Himali to be shared with you.
Yeah, if it is
But,
possible, before we
yeah.
have the next class, better to
Of course,
have the
today
reading
itself I will
materials.
send. I will send them
Right.
today itself. Right?
Okay, thank you, madam.
Right. Yeah. So
මැඩම්
here.
පොඩි වෙලාවක් තියෙන්නේ 5 minutes වගේ.
ඒක තමයි මම ඒගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වා ඔක්කොටම දැන්
හරි.
ඊට ගමන් ඊළඟ දවසට කරන්න ඕනේ ඒවා ටිකක් දැන් කියලා තියෙනවා.
හරි මැඩම් ඕකේ.
හරිද? Okay, I have this research topic. Can you tell me what kind of a research this would be? I'm waiting for your answer. We have only 4 minutes. So, do you find hundreds of family-owned businesses in Sri Lanka where, say, they have the next generation, say, for example, at least operating with the second generation? Can you? Bit difficult.
Yeah,
So,
when it comes,
sorry?
if you get a sizable business, it's very few sizable business in the
Very few. We are looking at fairly developed organizations, not just the petty kade type of things, right? So when you look at them, you find it's very few, right? So we are looking at whether they have a successor groomed to take over the business. Okay. So you can see some of the variables that we have considered in this research. Say successors relationship with the parents and number of successors and founders needs. Say sometimes you find the grandfather is still alive and controlling the business, so the youngest third generation fellow doesn't like it, right? So what kind of research you suggest? Quantitative or qualitative? You will have to talk to them and get their viewpoints too.
Quantitative.
It's going to be, come again?
Quantitative.
Not
it's
quantitative.
qualitative.
Qualitative. Because you will have to have in-depth discussions to find how these things, the successors relationships and how the successors training experience and to what extent the father has groomed the son or something like that. You know, you can't get to know these things with questionnaire. You will have to have detailed discussion. So it's going to be a qualitative research. So quickly, what is your philosophy? Is it positivism or interpretivism?
Interpretation.
Interpretivism. Inductive or deductive?
Inductive.
Inductive. Survey or case study?
Survey.
No, not survey. Survey means you have a large number of respondents, you give questionnaires, you quantitatively analyze. Case study means you're going through interviews,
Okay.
right? Then you have mono method qualitative research because it's only interviews. Then you have cross-sectional research, okay? So because you will be conducting interviews only once and you're not going to have a second round of interviews. Okay? So with this, we find, say, this is a qualitative research where you have to analyze the qualitative. So you can find that there is only less than 1 minute left. I will therefore share the PowerPoint presentations with Himali to be shared it with you. Okay, so we'll meet up in the next class. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you, madam.
Okay.